I was locked outside during a snowstorm because I told the truth. That was the punishment. Not grounding, not a lecture. Not even the usual silent treatment. I'd grown up swallowing like aspirin, with no water. No, this time, my mother locked me out of the house in sub-zero temperatures because I told the truth about what her precious nephew did to me. I was 16. I remember the year, not by the calendar, but by the way the frost clung to my lashes that night. December 2021, 4 days before Christmas. My cousin Drew had been visiting for the holidays like he did every year. Everyone loved Drew, smiled when he walked in, laughed at his jokes like they weren't the same ones he'd told last year. Let him charm his way through everything like he was made of gold, and the rest of us were just lucky to breathe the same air. And me? I was the disappointment, the moody one, the dramatic girl who cried too easily and wanted too much, the one who kept bringing up things people wanted to forget. But I couldn't forget what Drew did, what he whispered in the hallway, what he touched, how he grinned after, like he'd handed me a gift and I was too rude to accept it. So I told my mom. She didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't even blink. She poured herself another glass of boxed wine and said, "You really want to ruin Christmas for everyone?" That was the moment I knew. I wasn't a daughter to her, I was an inconvenience, a stain on the illusion of our perfect family. And when Drew denied it, of course he did, she believed him, or pretended to. I still don't know which would be worse. Later that night, I said something at dinner. I wasn't supposed to, but Drew had been sitting too close. My fork shook in my hand. I couldn't eat. My voice cracked, but I said it. "Don't touch me." The table fell silent. Mom's lips curled into something like a smile, but more like a sneer. Outside. Now. She walked to the door, opened it wide, and pointed. "You need to cool off." I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. The air hit me like a slap. My boots weren't laced. I had no coat, no gloves. I stood on the porch, heart hammering, waiting for her to open the door again. 5 minutes. 10. 20. I don't remember when the tears started, but they froze fast. Eventually, the neighbor across the street saw me. Miss Elena, 73 years old with arthritis in her knees, and the kindest damn heart in the world. She pulled me into her arms and wrapped me in every blanket she owned. That night, she called the police. Then CPS. Then my grandmother. By morning, half the family knew what happened. The other half was already defending Mom. She didn't mean it. Teenagers lie. You know how dramatic she gets. I never went back. But that wasn't the end, that was the beginning, because what they didn't know was I had already started writing everything down. Every comment, every bruise, every time I paid the electric bill, because my mom spent her paycheck on scratch-offs. Every time I was left out of family trips. Every dollar Drew borrowed from me when we were kids and never paid back. Every secret they told me to swallow. And now, I was done swallowing. After that night, I became a ghost in my own family. Not because I was gone, no. Physically, I was staying at my grandmother's, sleeping on a pull-out couch that smelled like cedar and lavender. But emotionally, spiritually, they made sure I knew I no longer belonged. Calls stopped. Messages trickled in, then dried up completely. The few that came weren't apologies, they were ambushes. Passive-aggressive grenades wrapped in sugary concern. Your mom's been so upset, she just wants things back to normal. You've always had a flair for drama, sweetie. Maybe this got exaggerated. I know Drew can be a little much, but ruining Christmas? Really? My aunt even sent me a gift card for Olive Garden. As if $30 worth of pasta could patch over the fact that they left me to freeze to death. I stopped responding. I stopped trying. For once, I let the silence speak for me. And that drove them nuts. They weren't used to me being quiet. I'd always been the fixer. The one who smoothed over fights, kept secrets, wrote birthday cards even when no one remembered mine. I was the glue. The emotional janitor cleaning up the mess they didn't want to admit existed. But now I was done mopping up their bullshit. They retaliated with rumors. I found out later that Mom had told the extended family I'd run off with some older guy and gotten into trouble. That I was angry because they tried to set rules. That I was making things up because I wanted attention. What attention? I was living out of trash bags, using my part-time paycheck from the bookstore to buy my own shampoo and microwave dinners. Grandma did what she could, but she was on a fixed income, and the guilt they poured into her phone line every night was constant. Why are you enabling her, Ma? You're taking her side against your own daughter. She's manipulating you. But Grandma never budged. She didn't say much, just slipped a 20 into my hoodie pocket when she thought I wasn't looking and made me tea every night, like it was a ritual to keep my spirit stitched together. Meanwhile, at home, they were unraveling. I know because they couldn't help themselves. They'd send me photos, not directly of course, but through cousins, mutual friends, passive posts. Photos of Drew laughing in my old seat at the dinner table, of my room now redecorated, of Mom looking smug and serene, like someone who'd just Marie Kondo'd her trauma. Except I was the thing she'd discarded. And the house? It didn't stay serene for long, because when I stopped cleaning up emotionally and literally, things started to pile up. Bills, tensions, old lies. One by one, people started noticing, asking questions. Why wasn't I at Christmas this year? Why did I stop coming around? Why had I deleted half the family from social media and blocked the other half? And when they asked, I didn't lie, I didn't cry, I just told the truth. And with every truth I told, the spotlight on their fake little stage began to flicker. Because the thing about narcissists, they need someone to play the villain in their story so they can keep pretending they're the hero. But I was done playing the villain in a story I didn't write. And soon, I'd start writing my own. The thing about silence is, it makes space for things to echo. And once I stopped dancing for their attention, the echoes got loud. That's when I started hearing things I wasn't supposed to. It started with a voicemail, a slip-up. My aunt called Grandma one night, not realizing she hadn't hung up properly, and left a 30-second message that changed everything. Just tell her to shut up already. She doesn't need to know about the money. If she finds out, it's over. Click. Money? I didn't know what it meant at first. I just knew it made my stomach twist. My hands started shaking. That kind of shaking where your body knows the truth before your mind does. I stayed up until 3 a.m. scrolling through my memories like they were surveillance footage. And that's when I remembered something, a comment from my mom 2 years earlier, offhand and drunk, about Grandpa's savings account. He set it up for you, she'd said once, rolling her eyes. Like you'd even know what to do with it. Back then, I thought she meant college funds. Maybe a few $1,000, if that. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. I waited until Grandma was asleep and pulled out the dusty binder where she kept all her important papers. Inside, I found an old account number with my name on it and a stack of letters from the bank. They weren't addressed to me. They were addressed to my mother. Apparently, the account had been transferred after Grandpa died. Quietly. Legally. But not ethically. The balance? $82,417.93. 82,000. Gone. No explanation. No apology. No, hey, by the way, your grandfather left this for you because you were the only one who used to sit with him after dinner and actually listen. Nope, just gone. Spent. I confronted Grandma first. She turned pale. Then she turned to her landline and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. Deborah, you need to explain this. Now. I didn't hear what Mom said, but Grandma's face hardened in a way I hadn't seen since the funeral. When she hung up, she looked at me and said, "You were right about everything." That's when the tide shifted. Because up until then, I had been the dramatic one, the liar, the ungrateful brat. But now, I had proof. And then, as if the universe knew I needed reinforcements, I got a message from someone I never expected, my cousin Lisa, Drew's older sister. We hadn't talked in years. She'd moved out of state, gotten married, had 2 kids, built a life far away from the family circus. Her message was short, I believe you. I've known what he is for a long time. He did things to me too. Call me if you want help. I called her that night. And everything spilled. She'd been in therapy for years. Had documented everything. Had a lawyer friend who specialized in family disputes and financial fraud. She walked me through what to do, how to gather the right documents, what to request from the bank, how to trigger an audit without tipping anyone off. And we didn't just go after my stolen money, we went after the lies. She had emails, screenshots, photos, a journal from when she was 14 describing the same smirking golden boy predator who ruined our lives and walked away like it was nothing. We cross-referenced timelines, matched up family vacations, weekends, holidays, all the moments when Drew just happened to be alone with us. And with every piece of evidence, we were building a case, not just against him, against the entire illusion. Because it was never just about one monster. It was about the entire machine that protected him. And now, that machine was about to break. It started with a letter. Certified mail, tracked, time-stamped, the kind of letter that makes your stomach drop just seeing it in the mailbox. We sent it to my mother, to Drew, to my aunt, to the family's so-called trustee, a cousin who once told me I was too sensitive when I cried at our grandfather's funeral. Inside, a copy of the account records, withdrawal history, a notarized statement from the bank manager confirming the transfer authorization was forged, and a formal notice from Lisa's lawyer demanding full restitution or we proceed to file charges for financial fraud, elder abuse, and will tampering, Silence for 2 days. Then, chaos. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree dipped in gasoline. First came the rage. How dare you do this to us? You're tearing the family apart. This will ruin Drew's life. Then came the guilt. Can't we just handle this privately? Your mother didn't know what she was signing. He's getting help now. Isn't that enough? Enough? I nearly died on her doorstep, barefoot in a snowstorm, because I told the truth. And now, they wanted enough? No. No more enough. No more excuses. No more silence. Lisa and I moved fast. We filed the fraud report. We submitted a request for an investigation into the inheritance mismanagement. And most satisfying of all, we subpoenaed Drew's emails. Turns out our charming golden boy had a habit of documenting his sleaze. There it was, him bragging to a friend about borrowing from the idiot cousin's fund to pay off a car loan. Mentions of guilt tripping the old bat my grandmother for cash. And one nauseating email with the subject line, "She wanted it." We printed everything. And then we didn't send it to the police. We sent it to the family group chat. Every cousin, every aunt, every uncle, every sugar-coated Sunday brunch liar who had ever smiled in my face and rolled their eyes behind my back. One file, one click, full send. The fallout? Oh, it was glorious. Phone calls were flying, screenshots were leaking. The family started eating itself alive in real time. Drew tried to deny it all until someone found the original bank paperwork with his handwriting on it. His parents tried to shield him until Lisa dropped her own journal entries, complete with therapy timestamps and a timeline that matched mine perfectly. And my mother? She didn't even try to apologize. Just texted me, "You've always been cruel." To which I replied, "Not cruel, just done." Within a month, the trust was frozen. An emergency court date was set. The lawyer made it clear, if they didn't repay the stolen money, we'd go public. And we had everything. The best part? They started turning on each other. Drew blamed my mom. Mom blamed the trustee. The trustee claimed ignorance and tried to throw everyone under the bus. The same people who once told me I was imagining things were now begging Lisa and me to keep this out of court. But it was already too late. The mask was off. The golden boy was tarnished beyond recognition. And the woman who birthed me? The one who once called me dramatic while sipping wine and watching me sob? She'd never look clean again. We didn't even need a full trial. The threat was enough. Within weeks, the money was wired back. Not all of it, some of it was gone for good, but enough. Enough to close that chapter with interest. Drew disappeared. Deleted his socials. Rumor is he moved in with a friend across the state, trying to start over. My mom? She showed up at Grandma's one day. Tried to cry. Tried to hug me. I opened the door just long enough to say, "I have nothing left for you." And I closed it again. For once, she was the one on the outside. It's been a year. 12 months since I stood in front of my mother, looked her in the eyes, and closed the door like it was the last page of a book I should have stopped reading a long time ago. I wish I could say everything healed overnight. It didn't. Trauma doesn't work like that. Some nights I still wake up with the image of frost on my fingertips, with the sound of that door slamming shut behind me echoing in my chest. But now I wake up in my own apartment. My name on the lease, my locks on the door, my boundaries firm, beautiful, terrifying, held like gospel. No one gets to cross them again. Lisa and I talk every week. We've rebuilt something real, not just a connection out of shared trauma, but out of truth. She sends photos of her kids. I send her pictures of my garden, which I started from scratch, just wild dirt and stubborn seeds. It's small, messy, alive, kind of like me. Grandma's still in my life. She's quieter now, older, slower. But she smiles more. Sometimes she looks at me like she sees a version of herself she was never allowed to be. Strong, unapologetic, free. The rest of the family? Some tried to crawl back. My aunt sent a Christmas card, the kind with the fake gold lettering and a passive-aggressive line scribbled at the bottom. Family is forever, no matter what mistakes we make. I didn't respond. One cousin emailed me a "let's catch up" message like she hadn't helped spread rumors about me sleeping around in high school. Blocked. Even my mother tried again. On my birthday this time. Texted, "I miss you, I hope we can talk." I didn't reply, not out of hate, out of clarity. She's still the same person who looked at me, shaking in the snow, and chose a lie over her daughter. A mother who cared more about her wine-stained reputation than the bruises her silence helped leave. That's who she is. And me? I'm no longer trying to fix what she broke. I used to think revenge would feel like fire, like rage spilling out of me, hot and loud and unstoppable. But this is colder, sharper, quieter. Revenge is living a good life without them. It's never wondering what they think. It's eating dinner in peace, laughing without guilt, telling the truth without being punished for it. It's watching them crumble under the weight of their own lies, while you bloom in the silence they once used to bury you. I bought a plant last week, a winter jasmine. The tag said it thrives in the cold, blooms when everything else dies back. I laughed in the store because of course that's the one I'd pick. Because I did the same. They said I was heartless. But for once, I put my heart first. And it finally feels like mine. Story 2, I'm 42 years old, and my name is Myra Ellison. My daughter, Zoe, 10 and I reside in the quiet small town of Brookhaven. I've been parenting her alone since my spouse and I got divorced 5 years ago. Zoe makes every moment worthwhile, even though life hasn't always been simple. On Maple Street, I own a tiny bookshop. It's simple, with shelves brimming with gently used paperbacks, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee from the nearby cafe. I've established a consistent routine in this peaceful region of the world, and the people know me by name. Zoe is a calm youngster who is kind, and much older than other children her age. Her eyes are the same shade of warm brown as mine, and she has long, honey-colored hair that she received from her father. Even though she isn't a communicative person, her soul speaks when her fingers contact the piano keys. Her language is music, and I feel as though I'm seeing something sacred with each note she plays. When Zoe got home from school one afternoon, she took an apple off the kitchen counter and left her backpack on the ground. "What's for supper tonight, Mum?" she inquired. I grinned as I took ingredients out of the refrigerator and bit into it. "Chicken pot pie, perhaps?" "Your favorite." She nodded and her eyes brightened. "Before supper, may I play Chopin's Prelude?" "I want the class tomorrow to go well." "That would be wonderful," I remarked, putting the veggies down. "Go on, my love." With her tiny fingers moving across the keys, Zoe approached the upright piano in the living room and carefully opened the lid. Soft, melancholy melodies flooded the atmosphere. It seemed as though the walls leaned in to listen each time she performed. The evening ought to have been straightforward and joyous. Just the familiar noises of home, a mother and a daughter. However, there was always a gloom in my heart, underlying everything. There was a name for that shadow. My parents, Linda and Robert, and my family reside in a big house, with a well-kept garden, and too many memories on the outskirts of Brookhaven. Previously, they operated a prosperous downtown diner, but they are now retired. They reside a few blocks away from my younger sister, Jenna. She is a single mother to her 8-year-old twin sons, Ryan and Mason, who are renowned for being noisy, rambunctious, and, to be honest, a little spoiled. She works at a nearby insurance company. I was the responsible one growing up. Every night, the daughter helped shut the restaurant, vacuum the floors, and clean the dishes. Conversely, Jenna was the sweetheart, the family's adorable newborn. In the event that she spilt a glass, she got away with everything. It was referred to be an accident. Putting aside my annoyance, I was being rude when I voiced my complaints. The same thing was always repeated by my mother. "The oldest is you. Reflect. That is your responsibility." I finally gave up whining and came to terms with it. However, certain things are constant. Jenna's boys continue to be the topic of attention during family get-togethers. Everyone nods politely when I bring up Zoe's piano performance, and then they all start talking about how Ryan solved a Rubik's Cube or how Mason is learning karate. It still hurts on the inside even if I grin through it. For Zoe's sake, I've made an effort to stay in touch with them in spite of everything. She shouldn't grow up without grandparents, in my opinion. I don't want her to experience my emotions invisible. Zoe was sitting at the dining table on a Thursday night completing her homework. "Are we going to Grandma and Grandpa's house this weekend, Mom?" she inquired nonchalantly as she looked up. It was a surprise question. Why? According to Ryan and Mason, they received a new gaming system at school. I only hope that I may be able to see it. I paused. It wasn't a gaming system. Video games didn't interest her. All she wanted was to fit in, perhaps to feel like a member of a larger family. I forced a grin and said, "I don't know yet. Let's see." But my heart constricted inside. With her, I didn't trust them. Not quite. Not when I had seen what their definition of love looked like in the past. 1 week later, I got an envelope in the mail. Delicate flower motifs were pressed into the paper, giving it a cream color. It contained an invitation to my college flatmate Sarah Williams' wedding, as she was one of the only individuals who had supported me during my divorce. It had been years since I attended a wedding. It sounded good to dress up and spend an evening, even if only briefly, surrounded by music and laughing, and I should have stood by Sarah. That night, while I sat on the sofa going over the invitation, she had finally found happiness after her own loss. As she flipped through a music book, Zoe nestled up next to me. "What am I going to do, Mom, while you're at the wedding?" she inquired. I stopped. Perhaps we might invite someone to stay with you, I thought. Or would you want to stay with Grandma and Grandpa for the day? Zoe raised her head thoughtfully. They may listen to me play the piano. Grandma seems to enjoy Chopin. I hesitated at her response. Despite my gut telling me not to leave her there, I reminded myself after seeing her expectant expression, perhaps things would be different this time. They could have changed. Or perhaps I was simply sick of thinking the worst. That evening, I gave my mother a call. Naturally, reflect. Having Zoe would be wonderful. Brightly, Linda stated over the phone. Too much time has passed. Her music books are welcome. We'll hang up and enjoy ourselves. I looked over at Zoe. Do you think you'll be all right there? She gave a soft nod. Grandma and I are excited to play the piano together. All right then. I'll drop you off tomorrow evening, and I'll pick you up the next day, I said, stroking her hair. Although I told myself it would only be for one night, I still felt a little uneasy. What could a single night do? It felt different the following morning. I felt lighter than I had in a long time. Wearing a wine red silk dress that I hadn't touched in a long time, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror. I applied a little makeup and carefully pinned my hair up. For a few hours, just enough to feel like someone other than a mother or a bookshop owner. When Zoe saw me, her eyes widened as she entered the room. Mom, you look really pretty, she said with a shy smile. I turned toward her and smoothed her hair. Thank you, sweetheart. Be a good girl at Grandma's, okay? Practice the piano. I know she'll enjoy hearing you play. Zoe had already packed her backpack the night before. Some books, her sheet music, her asthma inhaler and allergy medicine. We drove through the quiet streets of Brookhaven, the late afternoon sun glowing against the trees as we pulled into my parents' driveway. That familiar blend of nostalgia and discomfort crept into my chest. Linda opened the door with a wide smile. Zoe, come in, come in. Grandma's been waiting. She hugged Zoe and gave me a once-over mirror. You look lovely in that dress. Thanks, I said flatly, setting Zoe's bag down inside the doorway. Her meds are in the front pocket. Her asthma is under control, but just in case. Also, she has a mild nut allergy. Yes, don't worry. We'll take care of our granddaughter, Robert added, stepping into view behind her. I looked at them both, my fingers tightening around my car keys. I'll pick her up tomorrow evening. Zoe gave me a quick hug, her face calm. Have fun, Mom. Don't worry. I forced a smile and turned to go. The wedding venue was already buzzing when I arrived. Flowers, music, laughter. It felt like another world. Sarah was glowing in her white gown, and when she saw me, her face lit up. Reflect. You came. Oh, I'm so happy to see you, she said, pulling me into a hug. You look beautiful, Sarah. I'm really happy for you. We talked, laughed, danced for a little while. I let myself feel like a woman again, not just a mother. But midway through the evening, as the cake was being served, I received a text from my mother. Zoe is just being a little disobedient. Nothing serious. My stomach twisted. I try not to overthink it. Maybe she was just watching too much TV or refusing vegetables. Still, that uneasiness crept back in, just like it always did. Mira? You okay? Asked Lisa, another college friend sitting beside me. Yeah, just a bit nervous, my mom said. Zoe's not listening. Lisa waved her hand. Oh, kids, you finally seem relaxed. Enjoy it. I nodded, smiled, but my heart had already moved. I checked the time and decided to depart sooner than intended. As I drove back through the peaceful streets, something in me just sensed something wasn't right. As I arrived into the driveway of my parents' house, the sky had darkened to a light blue. The porch light threw a golden glow on the front stairs, yet something seemed odd. The door was slightly ajar. I stepped inside. No one came to meet me from the living room. I heard the booming noises of video games, quick clicking explosions, eager voices. I stepped in and noticed Ryan and Mason sitting on the couch, deeply immersed in their new gaming system. When I walked in, they didn't even look up. Hey, I remarked in a forceful voice. Where? Zoe? No answer. When I entered the kitchen, I could hear water running. My heart fell. Zoe's little form trembled as she stood on a stool by the kitchen sink. Her hands were in a wash basin filled with dishes and soapy water, but I wasn't frozen in place because of it. She had a cut just above her right eyebrow, and the blood was seeping out. On the floor close by was a broken piece of glass. Linda was drinking coffee at the kitchen table in a relaxed manner. As if it were any other evening, Jenna stood next to her, arms crossed, talking. What took place? I was trembling as I spoke. Unfazed, Linda looked up. I reprimanded her since she wouldn't assist. She is exaggerating. I approached Zoe right away and carefully removed her hands from the wash basin. I used a towel to clean her wet fingertips, and she grimaced, flinching a little. Then, with shaky fingers, I grabbed for her face and studied the gushing cut above her eye. I don't want to do the dishes, she added. Dismissively, Linda added. So I gave her a glass tap. It wasn't difficult. She needs to learn to be respectful. You threw a glass at her? My voice was hardly heard as I asked. Jenna shrugged and claimed she needed discipline. You treat her reflection too leniently. I was having trouble breathing. Zoe's crimson, puffy, and quietly imploring eyes greeted mine. Taking a long breath, I steadied my hands and took out my phone. 911. What emergency do you have? My daughter, who is 10 years old, has been attacked. Her head is gushing blood. Right now, I need paramedics and cops at 621 Willow Bend Drive. In a matter of minutes, flashing red and blue lights broke the neighborhood's calm. In front of the home, an ambulance and a police vehicle arrived. The sleeve of my dress was covered with blood from Zoe's cut, and I was standing in the doorway with her in my arms, her head resting against my shoulder. 2 cops and 2 paramedics carrying medical kits exited the vehicle. I gestured to the kitchen. She's inside. I spoke in a flat, icy tone. She used a glass to strike my daughter. The weapon on the floor by the wash basin is that. The policeman came in coolly but firmly. Linda was still drinking her coffee at the table. Jenna rested her head on the counter, crossed arms. And cop came up to Linda. Please get up, ma'am. What is this? With her brows raised as though the whole thing were beneath her, she questioned. For assault and endangering the welfare of a kid, you are being placed under arrest. The right to silence is yours. What? That's ridiculous. Her grandma is me. She sprang up suddenly and yelled. You used a glass item to attack a minor. Taking her arm, the officer said forcefully, in court, you'll have an opportunity to defend yourself. When Linda refused, Jenna took the initiative. Hold on a second. This is completely exaggerated. She was only attempting to instill discipline in the girl. You saw the second cop turn to face her, but you did nothing about it. Jenna opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For obstruction and neglecting to report abuse, you will be placed under arrest. At the station, we'll resolve the matter. After handcuffing Linda, they led her out the front door. Jenna, also in handcuffs, followed. She looked shocked and pale. One of the paramedics, meantime, carefully removed Zoe from my arms and placed her on the trolley. While the other checked her vitals, he looked at the cut above her eyebrow. He said, she's stable. The wounds are clean yet deep. Her sutures and a thorough examination will need us to take her to the hospital. I brushed Zoe's hair back and nodded. I'll accompany you. As we climbed into the ambulance, Zoe's hand held mine firmly. I turned to face the house where I used to try to believe. Safety meant family. All I could see now was a crime scene. Despite the bright lighting, the emergency room felt chilly. Too distant from the cozy, comfortable world. Too cold to be quiet. Zoe was lying on the hospital bed, holding my hand while the doctor cleaned the wound on her forehead. I had attempted to give her something. She didn't cry. Since the ambulance ride, she hadn't cried a tear. I was more deeply hurt by that silence than by any scream. The doctor spoke softly. A gentle woman with gentle eyes. Although the laceration is clean, 5 stitches were required. We looked for signs of a concussion. I would like to keep her overnight for observation, even though her vitals are normal. Naturally, I muttered. I sat next to Zoe after the doctor left and combed her hair, stroking a loose strand behind her ear. I apologized in a low voice. It was wrong of me to take you there. I ought to have followed my gut. At last, Zoe turned to face me, her eyes puffy and exhausted. Mom, I did not do anything wrong. My only desire was to play the piano. In my throat, a knot formed. There was nothing wrong with you. Nothing at all. You weren't at blame for what occurred. When she eventually fell asleep, I could feel her little body relax as she rested her head against my arm. I went out into the corridor. My head was clearer than ever, yet my hands were still shaking. I took out my phone and called someone else. Hello? Indeed? I must consult a family law lawyer. It's critical. This was more than a simple injury. This was about speaking up for my child, for myself, and for the years of quiet I had accepted behind the mask of familial responsibility. My mother had crossed a boundary, and now I was determined to make sure the law did what love had failed to do, hold her accountable. 2 days later, I sat in the office of Mark Ellis, a keen-eyed, quiet-spoken attorney who specialized in family law and child protection matters. A copy of the hospital report was given to him. The official police report from the night of the event, along with pictures of Zoe's injuries. He nodded slowly as he leafed through the papers. Mara, this is a compelling argument. You have eyewitness accounts, a recorded 911 call, medical proof, and a minor victim. The pursuit of criminal charges for child abuse is more than sufficient. I want to go on. My voice was steady as I spoke. No second chances, no excuses from family. Justice is due to my daughter. Mark bent over. After that, we'll immediately press criminal charges. To stop further communication, we can also seek a restraining order if you'd like. I desire both. Without hesitation, I said. The documentation was filed by the end of the week. Because of the seriousness of the attack, the matter was taken up by the district attorney's office, and the court scheduled the preliminary hearing. Jenna had been freed awaiting inquiry, but not without repercussions, and Linda was already being jailed without bail. She was charged with willful neglect and obstruction, both misdemeanors. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom seemed heavy, but I sat in the first row with Zoe and gripped her hand tightly. Wearing a beige jumpsuit, Linda stood in the defendant's box, her eyes vacuous and proud. The evidence was overwhelming, but she never once looked at us. The testimony of the physician. My 911 call was played out loud in front of everyone, according to the paramedics. For the jury, the pictures of Zoe's injury were magnified. The judge's tone was icy, but his face remained expressionless. Following discussion, the punishment was given. For serious child abuse, Linda Porter is therefore given a 5-year term in state prison. After a year, parole eligibility will be examined under close supervision. It was Jenna's turn next. She received a sentence that included required parenting classes, 6 months of community service, and a year of court monitoring, because she failed to take action and put a youngster in risk. I felt at ease, but not triumphant. I gazed at Zoe by my side, fearless, secure, and healing, and I was aware that we were no longer victims. We made it through. I took some time off from everything after the sentencing. Vacations with the family, even my bookstore's limited social networks. I required room. Zoe required room. Above all, we required time to recover. We went back to our daily schedule, but a fundamental shift had occurred. Zoe has an understated strength. Right now, one that has never been there. She continued to play the piano, but her performance had more presence and more assurance, as if she had something to prove, but not to them, to herself. My father, Robert, called, but I didn't answer. Others of his voicemails were passionate. Others were imploring. Some had half-formed phrases and silent apologies. I didn't answer, not quite yet. Jenna, on the other hand, vanished into her own maelstrom. Through common acquaintances, I learned that she was having difficulties. Her relationship was disintegrating for the first time, and parenting was crumbling under the pressure of responsibility. She was experiencing what it felt like to be held accountable. In the evenings, Zoe and I read, make easy dinners, and get ready for her impending piano concert. It was quieter in the home now, lighter. She glanced up at me from the other side of the table one evening as we were cleaning up after supper. Will I ever have to see Grandma again, Mom? I approached and knelt next to her chair. No, I answered quietly. If you don't want to, no. That decision is now up to you, nobody else. She let out a breath, clearly relieved. All right. She practiced Debussy's Clair de Lune the next morning with more soul than I had ever heard her perform. It was no longer only a musical composition. It was a liberation. The Thursday afternoon was wet. When my phone rang, I had just closed the bookshop early because of the bad weather. I had no idea what the number was, and for a second I thought I would ignore it, but I felt compelled to respond. Hi there? Hello? Is Allison in this mirror? Indeed. Who's talking? Claire from St. Vincent's Hospital is here. Robert Porter, your father, had a heart attack and was admitted this morning. You were on his emergency contact list. My throat tightened with breath. Oh, I see. Is he steady? We advise you to come in as soon as you can, although he is not in immediate danger. Thank you. I'll be over there soon. The hospital smelt of silent anxiety and antiseptic. Almost automatically, I made my way through the hallways until I arrived at the cardiac unit, via room 214's window. My father was lying in bed, thin and pallid, with more equipment than I could count attached to him. I went inside and took a seat next to him. He had his eyes shut. I remained silent. After some time, he gently opened his eyes and turned to face me. Reflect, he muttered. You arrived. Yes, I did. His voice broke. I apologize for what I allowed to occur, for what I failed to halt. I remained silent. He was not forgiven by me, nor did I assault him. I simply sat in silence, in a moment that had nothing to do with comfort or atonement, just the facts. My father started his gradual recuperation in the weeks that followed. He was placed in a home care program with weekly nurse visits, medication schedules, and physical therapy after being released from the hospital. I consented to assist 3 days a week on my terms. I would drop by to talk to the nurses, check on his progress in rehab, and manage his blood pressure and meds. Zoe wasn't with me. I wasn't there for long. I didn't sit there and talk. I fulfilled my obligations, not much more. He never demanded more. Every visit was silent. He occasionally attempted to strike up a conversation. At times, he just thanked me. On other occasions, he would open his mouth to speak. Perhaps a recollection, perhaps an apology. However, I would refocus the discussion on the nurse's notes or paperwork. The image of my mother was vanished, completing her sentence. Additionally, I felt as though the home, which had formerly been filled with unseen laws and judgment, had lost its ability to control me. When Jenna did turn up, it was infrequently. There were a lot of excuses made. Ryan's school problems are causing me stress. Mason is ill with a cold. I'm overburdened. I would have rolled my eyes or muttered something abrasive in the past. Now, though, I just watched her from afar. She was falling apart. She was now realizing the effects of her decisions, not because someone had wronged her. I was strangely not angry. I was at ease. Meanwhile, Zoe was doing really well. She was practicing with fresh vigor after receiving a nomination from her piano teacher for a regional competition. I didn't mention her grandparents, and she stopped asking about them. At last, our small world, just the two of us, was stable. However, mending has a peculiar way of creating space for fresh inquiries. And Zoe was about to ask me a question I hadn't anticipated. On a soggy Saturday morning, Zoe rushed into the kitchen. Excitation caused her cheeks to flush. She was waving a folded piece of paper. "Look, Mom, I was chosen." She handed the paper to me. "Examine the bold heading. Well done. You have been selected to compete in the regional youth piano competition on behalf of Brookhaven." I raised my head. My heart is swelled. "Zoe, that's amazing." She smiled, biting her bottom lip as shyly as she often did when she was feeling really happy. I was not expecting to make it. I stooped to give her a firm embrace. "I've always known you would." Later that night, the paper was still on the coffee table while we sat in the living room drinking mugs of cocoa. With a look I hadn't seen in a long time, Zoe turned to face me. Cautious, considerate, and maybe even torn. "Mom, would Grandpa want to know, in your opinion?" I stopped talking about the competition while lowering my cup. Quickly, she added, "I'm not expressing a desire to see him. I simply reasoned that perhaps hearing it might cheer him up." I took a while to respond. The idea wasn't out of the question. During the previous trips, Robert had been reserved, thoughtful, and even repentant. And in spite of everything, Zoe's heart continued to be open. I gently brushed a lock of hair behind her ear and added, "I'll give it some thought. However, only if you're genuinely comfortable with it." After giving a slow nod, she moved to the piano and started playing the selection she had made for the contest. I knew what I had to do because of the graceful and deliberate way her fingers worked, filling the house with a delicate tune that made it seem like time had frozen. For me, closure would have to be earned if it were ever to come for her. A week later, I got a surprise letter in the mail. It was typed officially on legal letterhead rather than handwritten. It came from the parole officer for my mother. The letter said that because of her age, good behavior, and successful completion of court-mandated rehabilitation, Linda had been given early release after serving 1 year of her 5-year sentence. She had asked for a supervised voluntary encounter with Zoe and was now under close surveillance. The letter made it clear that no communication would take place without our consent. Prior to bringing it up to Zoe, I sat with it in my hands for about an hour. "My dear," I said softly, "Grandma was let go early. If you agree, she would like to meet to apologize. Now is not the time to make a decision." Zoe stared at the piano keys in silence. She then gave a nod. "I'd want to know what she thinks." Robert was the first to arrive that Saturday afternoon. He was older and quieter than I recalled, and he was now using a cane to walk. A dark automobile arrived into the driveway a few minutes later. Linda came out with her parole officer, who waited outside as she made her way slowly to the home. She walked in and looked at Zoe. She appeared smaller than I had recalled. Eyes sunken with what may have been shame, face pallid, shoulders slightly bent. With her hands by her side, Zoe stood rigidly close to the piano. After taking a trembling breath, Linda said in a hushed voice, "Zoe, I came here to give you the most heartfelt apology I have ever given." Zoe remained still. "I caused you pain. I caused you pain that no youngster should ever experience. Since I was irate, domineering, and harsh that night, I've been thinking about it every day. You're not to blame for any of it." Her voice broke. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but I had to tell you straight out. I apologize." Quiet. "Next. Why did you treat me like that when I didn't do anything wrong?" Zoe questioned, hardly raising her voice above a whisper. Linda cast her gaze downward. I interpreted submission as stillness, and her lips quivered, due to the fact that I spoilt Mason and Ryan. Additionally, I thought I could exploit your silence. I was completely mistaken. Robert moved in closer. His eyes were shining with tears. "Both of you failed. You and your mum. Our parenting has been influenced by our pride." I gave Zoe a quick look. Her face was unreadable. She then moved carefully to the piano and took a seat. Once she had been reprimanded for wanting to practice, and now she put her fingers on the keys and started to play Nocturne in E-flat major. Like a gentle breeze, the melodies drifted through the room. Zoe glanced up as the song ended and whispered softly, "Thank you for the apology." She then faced me. Should they attend the competition? I nodded, blinking in amazement. "If you want them there, then sure." Whispering, Linda wiped her cheeks. "Both of you, thank you," as they departed. At the door, Linda turned to face me. "Mira, you did a good job raising her. Better than either of you ever were." For the first time, the pain they used to feel was not evoked by those words. They did not feel like a sign of approval. They simply had an honest feeling. It had been a year since Zoe had performed in our living room for Linda and Robert. It was a bright Sunday day in the springtime now. In our garden, a big table was arranged with mismatched chairs and a flowered fabric covering it. However, that was irrelevant. Who filled them was important. At the head of the table, Zoe, who was now 12, sat with pride. Beside her plate is a framed copy of her music certificate. She had taken part in more than just the local piano competition. She received a referral to the nearby music school after placing second. Sitting peacefully in a deck chair, Robert appeared more relaxed and powerful than I had seen him in a long time. He was walking every day and playing a little golf again. Linda, who sat calmly next to him, stopped attempting to steer the discussion. Rather, she paid attention. When someone talked to her, she smiled softly. She was softer now, molded by humility rather than time. "Okay, Zoe?" Robert smiled warmly as he inquired. "Have you chosen the piece for your next recital?" Zoe nodded and took a drink of her lemonade. "Indeed, I will perform Clair de Lune by Debussy." Linda's eyes gleamed as she gave a little smile. "That's a lovely decision, my love, similar to you." As the air pulled at the napkins, I carried a fruit plate out of the kitchen and placed it on the table. We had made great progress. We remembered what had transpired. We didn't act as though it was unimportant. In spite of this, we managed to proceed with respect, clarity, and limits. "Will Mason and Ryan also be attending?" With her hair brushed back, Zoe inquired. "Yeah," I said, looking towards the driveway. "They ought to arrive shortly." Robert had taken on a more active role as a grandpa in the months after Linda's discharge. He assisted Jenna with her son's constructive, non-aggressive disciplining. Jenna had also started to alter gradually while being monitored by the court and receiving counseling. The doorbell rang. Jenna and the boys were standing there when I answered it. "We apologize for being late." Jenna spoke, lines of struggle and exhaustion visible on her face. Shoes caused Ryan and Mason to lose their minds. The twins gave me a kind greeting. More than a year ago, I could have imagined. Jenna sat next to me on the porch stairs after lunch as the children played in the yard. "I realize I was terrible that day," she muttered. "I didn't succeed in protecting yours. I was just attempting to defend mine." I remained silent for a while. Then I answered. "Now, what counts is that we reared them with love and accountability and that we safeguard them all. It doesn't harm." She blinked back tears as she nodded. "I'm making an effort. I am aware." Through the open windows, the sound of Zoe playing the piano could be heard inside. This time, she was just playing freely and joyfully. There was no act. I was no longer reminded of anguish by the song. I was reminded of all that we had conquered. The sun was sinking behind the trees, shining a golden glow across our lawn. Zoe was standing close to the piano, delicately stroking the keys. Dessert was finished by everybody. Quiet talk had replaced the laughter. The air was still filled with the aroma of lemon cake. With a kind yet confident attitude, Zoe gazed up at us. After music school, she added, "I've been thinking a lot. My career goal is to teach piano." Startled yet quite proud, I blinked. She went on to demonstrate to them how music can inspire courage, saying, "I want to teach children like myself." A warm, sentimental silence descended upon the table. Linda grabbed for her water glass, her hand shaking. Robert only grinned, his eyes wide. Jenna covered her heart with her hand. Getting up, I approached Zoe and put my arms over her shoulders. "You'll make a fantastic educator." "Because you're already courageous," I whispered. I took a step back and allowed the music take over as she settled in and started to play a gentle, flowing serenity. Every letter appeared to contain a fragment of our adventure. Anger, grief, forgiving, and power all combined into one. I didn't feel the urge to glance back for the first time in years. I didn't bear the burden of unresolved issues or previous scars. I had kept my kid safe. I'd stood up for her. I had discovered who I was in the process. Although forgiveness had released us from the bonds of the past, it had not erased it, and we had made something new in that freedom. A family characterized by change rather than blood. truth and the will to develop. Zoe was playing the last note. The sound reverberated softly into the early evening sky, and I realized we were at last at home. Remember to like the video if you were moved by this narrative. It genuinely enables us to connect with additional great viewers like you. Have sentiments, ideas, or maybe a comparable experience? We would be delighted to hear from you. Please leave a remark below. What you say matters. Additionally, if you haven't already, please click the bell symbol and subscribe so that you don't miss any more soul-stirring stories. I appreciate you watching. Remember that telling the truth is the first step towards healing. Story 3. We cast our votes. The gathering will not include you. My dad gave me a nasty smile. If so, don't count on my $7,000 to pay for your vacation to Italy the following month. As I blocked his card, I remarked, "Take a seat." With a smile on her face, my sister spoke. We must speak. I still hadn't removed my coat. There was a family gathering at 6, according to the family group chat. However, nobody explained why. I was still holding the gift basket as I stood in the center of my parents' living room. I brought like an idiot. From the recliner, my mother smiled tightly at me. Dad was on the couch drinking wine, with both legs crossed. Too cozy. My brother pretended not to be aware of it while he sat close to the window and scrolled through his phone. What is this? Slowly, sensing the change in the air, I inquired. Was there a fatality? No, my dad responded, setting down his drink with a bit too much fanfare. A vote was held about the reunion. Which vote? I inquired. He told me bluntly, "You're out. We've made the decision that you shouldn't accompany us to Tuscany next month." There was silence in the room. I blinked. Are you kidding me? No. She was virtually glowing, according to my sister. We just believe it improves the dynamics of the group. I exhaled sharply through my nose. Group dynamics. You're so tense all the time, she said. Last year, you caused tension. Do you recall the argument you had with the waiter over the gratuity? Because they increased the bill by €80, you embarrassed your mother. I lost my temper. The only one who saw it was myself. By the way, you are welcome. This year we just want peace, Mom remarked quietly, avoiding eye contact. I gave them a look. The three of them, the ones for whom I made the travel arrangements. 2 weeks ago, they texted me to ask whether I would mind paying the villa deposit until your dad's bonus arrived. That amounted to $7,000. My card has been charged the same day. After that, they sent emoticons. Let me clarify. Slowly, I said. You're refusing to let me go on the trip I had planned? You offered the one I bought. My father shrugged. I made no promise to be left out. My sister crossed her legs like a judge in court and replied, well, lately you've been rather stiff. Your small budgets and restrictions, you've evolved. I had a brief and terrible existence. Yes, I did begin to say no. She disregarded that. This is meant to be enjoyable. To be honest, you destroy the atmosphere. Destroy the atmosphere, I said it again. Do you mean that I prevent you from using my card to purchase 18 Eurospritzers throughout the day? You're going overboard? Mom, cut in. Keep this from becoming nasty. Oh, I won't. I quietly opened the travel account associated with the trip after taking out my phone. On top of the coffee table, Dad's phone buzzed. What was that? He picked it up and murmured. I was the one who blocked the travel card, I said. The same one that I used to purchase your tickets. You simply had to have that Tuscan property with the pool and your hotels. You are aware that none of you reimbursed me. That is not possible. My sister got up and growled, I'm afraid I can't. And I did. What should we do at this point? At last, my brother said something. Why not? 3 weeks remain till the trip. Work things out, I said. Remember how relaxed you are. Bring the money to you. You are behaving like a kid. Mom lost her temper. I gave her a direct look. No, Mother. I no longer behave like a shill. Dad sprang to his feet, angry. You're being vindictive. No, I said, reaching for my keys. I'm being finished. And that's it. They were astonished in their expensive seats, wine glasses shaking, and fantasies of Tuscany abruptly dashed when I left, because they did more than simply betray me. Together, they made the plan. I didn't get any sleep the night following the family vote. My apartment ceiling phone was ringing on the nightstand as I lay awake. I received 3 laughing emoticons from my sister. I didn't answer. My mother texted me at around midnight. Keep things from getting ruined by this. You are still loved by us. The trip was made more difficult by you. Challenging. The trip was paid for by myself. I had everything planned. I reserved a 5-star property with a chef, a pool, and wine tours, since they pleaded with me to. And I was the issue now. But things really fell apart the next morning. Maya, my cousin, phoned. It has been a long time since we chatted, primarily because my sister detested her and always made fun of Maya for not fitting in. Hey, she said. I heard the events. Are you all right? How did you hear? Confused, I asked. A pause occurred. She said they posted about it. Where was it posted? Instagram. Jenny claimed that because you were jealous, you had a breakdown and called off your own trip. My blood became cold. What? When the toxic one eventually leaves, she captioned the photo, which showed a boomerang of wine glasses clinking. Prepare for the reunion with a hashtag. Hashtag free of narcissists. I couldn't speak. My family was making fun of me online after they lied about a trip I had paid for and voted me out. I realized then that something much more profound was happening. You know, Maya said, this is nothing new, but I didn't want to say anything. For months, Jenny has been making disparaging remarks about you to everyone, such as, she said that you were having financial difficulties, that you pleaded to be invited to the reunion, and that you threatened to call it off if you weren't given additional credit. Feeling lightheaded, I got up from the couch. She said, what? Maya sounded uncomfortable. She has been spreading it all over the place. She may be attempting to distance herself from you. Without saying goodbye, I hung up. In the same hour, I checked my email. I still had my flight schedule. I reserved it for the entire family. I took it open, hands shaking. Whose seat was given a business class upgrade? My sister's? Not my. Go for it. I almost dropped my phone when I opened the reservation. She would return to use my card. While I was arguing with her about stress 2 days ago, a little, silent charge of $1.500 appeared. That was the last straw. I gave the airline a call. Hello. I clenched my teeth and said, all 4 of the tickets under my last name should be canceled. The female caller hung up. Each and every one. The one that terminates in seat 3, in particular. I didn't protest when I got to my parents' place that evening. I had to look at their faces. Mom opened the door. Her smile quickly vanished. Oh, it's you. Don't be shocked, I said as I entered. You made enough internet posts to attract attention. She didn't dispute it. I entered the living room right away. As if it were 1985, my father was there reading the paper. Jenny was sitting there looking at Airbnbs on her laptop. I responded, you'll need a new card. She raised her head. What? The travel card was banned. The flights were canceled. Another visitor rebooked the property. It's off in Tuscany, you wouldn't. She spat. Yes, I did. You're ruining the entire journey. I chuckled ominously. Oh, honey, the moment you removed me from it, you ruined it. At last, my dad put down his newspaper, son. Don't act hastily. Slowly, I turned to face him. Rash? I was voted off of my own trip by you. Take my money, then let her to tell the whole family falsehoods about me. This isn't hasty. Justice is served here. Fairness? Jenny got to her feet, red-faced. You're amazing. The fact that everyone listens to me has always made you resentful. I remarked, funny, taking a folded piece of paper out of my jacket, since I had just listened to your financial statement. On the coffee table, I tossed it. Jenny's gaze expanded. Where did you purchase that? I wrote on the card. Finally, I printed the transactions over the previous 90 days. Designer purses, spa treatments, and, a non-refundable down payment for a Positano private boat. Did you have a side excursion planned? Mom got to her feet. Now let's all relax. Calm? I let out a bark. I requested receipts. Therefore, you labeled me difficult. In the meantime, she is using my account to book boats as if she were a member of the royal family. Leaping forward, my sister grabbed the statement and attempted to rip it. You've overreached yourself, she remarked. No, I declared myself free. She stopped. What? I reported fraud to the bank over the phone. My card has been being used by you without my consent. An investigation is under progress. You wouldn't risk it. She gave a hiss. I dare say I smiled icily. And you know what? Everything is theirs. IP addresses, delivery addresses, and timestamps. You're losing more than just your trip. Your credit score is going to drop. Leave now. She let out a scream. Face reddened. You are no longer a member of this family. I finally uttered something that we both agreed with. I paused just long enough to say one more thing before turning to face the door. I wish you success in letting the family members know why you won't be in Italy next month and why the police could call. I made noise because they believed they could degrade me in silence. Loud audience. Unforgettable sound. I received a letter a week after canceling their ideal trip to Italy and freezing the travel card. Not a call, not a message. A real letter from an attorney. I initially believed it to be a scam. No, though, it was genuine. A formal legal notice on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Walker and their daughter, Jennifer Walker, that has been carefully printed and signed. My sister and my own parents had filed a lawsuit against me. They were threatening to take legal action because I had interrupted their finances by cutting off support at a crucial moment. Holding the paper, I stood in my kitchen, trembling with a mixture of incredulity and rage. My family members had taken advantage of my money and generosity, and they attempted to sue me for it after I established boundaries. I didn't respond. I did not make a call. I had a plan. 6 p.m. on Saturday, dinner with the family. The final one I would ever go to. When my dad opened the door and saw me, he became pale. "Why are you here?" He let out a bark. I grinned. "Come on, please." I was invited. "Have you not read the letter from your own attorney?" He took a step back but remained silent. Everyone was already sitting inside. Jenny, my mother, and her boyfriend. Liam, my brother. 2 inquisitive aunts who enjoyed gossip. Excellent. After entering, I placed my tablet on the coffee table and connected it to the HDMI. Jenny gave an eye roll. "What is this? A spectacular stunt, maybe?" "A small slideshow, I see," I said with a smile. "Before you hauled me to court, I thought we could all agree." She began. "I swear to God." However, I pressed play. The initial slide. A screen grab showing her upgrading to business class on her flight with my card. The following slide. She signed a hotel receipt that was in my name. A luxurious suite costs $800. Next came surveillance footage showed her checking into a hotel in the heart of the city. She and her boyfriend were laughing. I'm tapping my card. The room fell silent. "What is this?" My mother inquired in a quiet voice. Jenny got up and grabbed the iPad, but I had the files backed up beforehand. She shouted, "This is a setup. Everything is being manipulated by him." I give her a direct look. It's funny how everything, including the dinner reservations and spa appointments, precisely matches your spending history. You have no idea how anxious I've been. She lost her temper. "You said you would assist us." I took a step forward. I was helpful. I bled. I paid. "You took something." My father pounded the table with his hand. "That's sufficient. Your actions are ruining this family." I looked over at him. Eyes met. "You sought to sue me with the daughter who has been committing credit card theft for months after destroying it. The moment you called a vote to banish me. I am no longer your piggy bank. I am your father." Jenny gritted her teeth and snarled. "You are pitiful." Well, I'm only beginning. I took out the last paper, a letter from my bank's fraud department. Official notification that Jennifer Walker's unjustified allegations are the subject of an ongoing inquiry. Dated, signed, sealed. Liam, who had been quiet up until this point, leaned in. "Did you actually file that?" I looked over at him. Indeed. I also offered her a week to repay it. She didn't. Instead, she shared memes. "Really?" he muttered. Jenny looked across at him. "Are you truly going to support him?" I said, "Jenny, you didn't respond. You reserved a boat in Positano using my identity. When I was not invited to the reunion, you sent me a laughing emoji. You're sitting here now, pretending that I betrayed you. We are related." My mother let out a cry. "No," I said icily. "We are both givers and users, and I'm done giving to you." Jenny sprang forward as if she were about to strike me. "When your name is brought up in court, you will come to regret this. Then everyone is aware." "Discovers what?" I yelled that I had paid for your whole lifestyle while you made fun of me in group chats, accused me of fraud, and then blamed my reaction on you. I didn't back down even when my voice cracked. You were like a wallet to me. Nor a son, nor a sibling, only a resource. Guess what though? Source. Weary. Everybody froze. The air was heavy with anger, disbelief, and shame. Then the most startling event took place. Liam got to his feet. "I'm done too," he said. "I've witnessed everything. The gaslighting, the guilt trips, the falsehoods. I didn't want to upset anyone, so I ignored it." He gave me a glance. "But Liam, you made the correct decision." With a trembling voice, my mother said, "Don't begin. Don't begin." He lost his temper. "You folks attempted to take from him and destroy him. Then you pretend that he is the villain." Jenny looked across at Liam, wide-eyed. "All you're feeling is jealousy. I've always made you jealous." "Perhaps," he responded. "I didn't steal a boat, though. That was it." I picked up my coat and turned to face the door. I said, "One more thing. I terminated my phone contract, my Netflix subscription, my auto insurance, and everything else. This ATM is closed, so if you want Tuscany, go earn it yourself." After that, I left without turning around this time. They believed I would collapse. Rather, they did. I left the supper the next evening. Are you familiar with that battlefield? Not because I was nervous, but because I didn't sleep. For the first time in my life, I was alive. While everyone else was making excuses, I wasn't the one who was apologizing, squinting, or doubting myself. I got to my feet. I retaliated without flinching. Then the dominoes began to fall. The first day was quiet. I noticed that my phone was oddly silent the next morning. You went too far. No. Communications. Mom isn't guilt-tripping. Dad didn't call in a panic, just tranquility. I brewed coffee. I rolled the windows open. Like someone who had burned the bridge and relished the fire, I put on my favorite playlist and started dancing. However, the quiet was short-lived. 3:42 p.m. It broke. Liam sent a message. They're going crazy. Mom is in tears. Jenny has shut herself in her chamber. According to Dad, you ruined the family. LOL. I grinned. Have you let him know that I have been paying to keep it running for the past 6 years? Liam answered in a single word, yes. Public fallout on day 2. My inbox blew up the following day, but not for my family. It was extended family, cousins, second cousins, aunts I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had seen Jenny's now deleted Instagram stories, the lawyer letter, the fraud claims, and they were pissed at her. I'm so sorry. We had no idea what you were dealing with. I always knew something was off with Jenny. However, if you need a place to stay, our guest room is open. You're not alone. One message stood out. It was from Aunt Clara, my mom's older sister, who had once disowned her over an inheritance fight 20 years ago. You did something none of us ever had the fortitude to do. You stood up to her. I'm proud of you. I didn't even know where I was weeping until I saw the tears strike my keyboard. Day 3. Jenny's collapse. I was at the gym, mid-rep when Liam phoned. She did it, he said. Did what? She broke down like full-on breakdown, screaming at Mom and Dad, through a wine glass, screaming it's all your fault, since now the extended family is blacklisting her. I sat down on the bench, breathless. She said what? She stated you humiliated her, wrecked her image, and ruined her prospects with Brian. You remember Brian, the dentist she's been dragging along? Yes, indeed, Mr. Prenup, I said. That's right. The fraud issue was made public. He abruptly interrupted her. He doesn't date criminals, he told her. I laughed so hard I almost choked. Additionally, she yells that you are Grandma's favorite. That was Liam's addition. Stop talking. What? Yes. Grandma must have amended her will. Departed from your home. I kept quiet. She didn't tell me. I muttered. Last year, she told me. I said, Liam said. Claimed that you were the only person to ever inquire about her well-being without requesting money. Stated that if she was going to give anything up, it would be to a person who didn't treat her like a shopping cart. I remained silent and allowed the gravity of the situation to set in because I was at a loss for words. The knock on day 5. Someone knocked on my door while I was working from home. I almost burst out laughing as I scanned the crowd. Dad? He appeared to have been coerced into standing there. I opened the door without getting out of the way. May I enter? He inquired. No, I said plainly. He winced, then made an effort to smile. All I wanted to do was talk. I pressed myself up against the frame. Do you want to talk now? The back of his neck was rubbed. Look, there's a problem with your mom. Since dinner, she hasn't eaten much. And Jenny. Dad? Sharply I replied. Turn back if your purpose is to guilt-trip me. I'm done apologizing on behalf of the family. He blinked. It's unfair. No, I lost my temper. The fact that you allowed Jenny to make fun of me is unfair. Take something from me. Tell the whole family a lie. You supported her as if she were a member of the royal family. She's your sister. I was also your son. I let out a bark. Your holidays were paid for by me. I covered bills when you mentioned money's tight. And I never received anything except sadism in return. Quiet. He went silent. He said, I didn't come here to argue. All I wanted to convey was that we were mistaken. Every one of us. I gave him a glance. I was erased by you, I said. And now that the funds have been depleted, Jenny is now exposed. You now recognize me. He didn't respond. But he inquired in a low voice before he departed. Is there any possibility that this may be resolved? No, I didn't hesitate. I then closed the door. 7th day. The change. Sunday of the next week. I opened my laptop, made a pot of strong coffee, and woke up late. Italy was not on my mind. Iceland was on my mind. A journey to me alone. No expectations, no guilt. The quiet, just the sky and myself. I made the reservation. Then I noticed a message that stopped me cold as I checked my messages. Jenny sent it, nor an insult, nor a tirade. You alone are victorious. I hope you're content. After a long moment of staring, I texted back. Winning wasn't the point. The goal was to end the game at last. I also blocked her. The new standard. It has already been weeks. I relocated to a different apartment. Greater, more intelligent, and above all, mine. I updated my phone number. All shared accounts have been closed. Get a fresh credit card. Establish clear limits with everyone, even Liam, who is still coming to terms with himself. And what do you know? They are not missed. Not the drama, not the guilt, not the never-ending story in which I am the self-centered character, because they thrived on my quiet while I refused. I'm at ease now. True tranquility. And, I remind myself, would you burn yourself alive again to keep them warm? Whenever I feel the need to contact, explain, or return, and it's always the same response. No, they intended to shatter me. I broke the cycle instead. I used to believe that saying yes all the time was the way to be the good one in the family. Yes to making the payment. Yes to extending forgiveness. And yes to being silent while everyone else screamed. In actuality, though, they never saw me as the nice guy. It was me who was helpful. And I turned into the adversary when I was no longer helpful. That insight struck me like a ton of bricks. 2 months after the supper one morning, standing on a cliffside with a view of the ocean, I was hiking by myself. My clothing was whipped by the wind. Below, waves smashed ferociously. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. I have a fresh voicemail from Mom. You are missed. Jenny has been attending counseling. Your father doesn't say much. Can we just return to the previous state of affairs? I burst out laughing. Return. Returning to what? Returning to becoming their lifestyle's silent sponsor. It's back to the jeering, manipulated, deleted. Let's go back to the time when I thought that being exhausted was the same as being loved. No, never again. Jenny wrote me a handwritten note a week later. I don't think you'll pardon me. I just wanted to let you know that everything is gone. Brian, my buddies, my work. You're happier without us, according to Mom. And I believe she's correct. It still aches, though. I have lost any sense of who I am. She enclosed a $7,000 check. I gazed at it, not because I was in need of the cash, but since it represented something more. I had already rebuilt more than they had ever removed. Responsibility. I didn't cash it. I wrote one line on the envelope and mailed it back. Money cannot purchase serenity. I had to learn the lesson the hard way. However, weeks later, the last piece of closure appeared out of nowhere. I heard a voice behind me while I was leafing through a paperback in a bookshop. Hello! Are you Walker? The first pivoted. A woman with a kid in her arms, maybe in her 30s, stood there. I apologize, she responded hastily. I believe you once assisted my sister with her rent a few years back. Your relatives turned against you, she said. I blinked. Yes, indeed. She claimed she told me about you. He demonstrated boundaries for me. The woman grinned. I wanted to express my gratitude. That's all. Then she turned to go. I was frozen there, beating a stranger with my heart. I don't even recall them assisting. Nevertheless, my narrative had spread. My power had reverberated. Not in dramatics or headlines, but in subtle change. Here's the reality then. I wish I had heard that years ago. You have no acquaintances. Your devastation, not out of loyalty or love, not even for blood. You are not born into a family. When you speak enough, it's who respects you, within me. That's what I said. I meant it. And I didn't turn around. Last sentence. Their ATM is not me. Neither their safety blanket nor their scapegoat. I'm free. Furthermore, I will never again have to pay for my own quiet.